All right.
Hi there, my name's Vera. I'm trans. I don't have dysphoria.
Honestly, I live within driving distance.
All right, guys. So Blaire White's whole thing is basically like, I am the trans person that, like, hey cis quote unquote normal people, cis right wing people. I'm the fucking normal trans person. I'm the fucking good trans person because I'm just like you. That's her entire thing. And it's like everyone else is fucking illegitimate. She loves gatekeeping it. It's really, really toxic, actually.
Of little Miss Blaire. I could take her out from a distance. It would be my pleasure to erase this trash from Earth.
And then, she does what all, like, people who are this far right do. They play the victim.
Whew, people are gonna be mad about this one. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is on a topic that I have never done a deep dive into. I've never done a dedicated video on this topic, and this is such a schism, war really within the trans community, this topic of, do you need gender dysphoria to be transgender? Is gender dysphoria a prerequisite to being a transgender person? Now,
I want to make it clear that I reject wholesale to this framing because dysphoria is a temporary state and you can alleviate it. So saying you need to have dysphoria to be trans is basically saying that you need to suffer forever in order to be legitimately trans, which is a really stupid way of deciding. It's whether you're trans or cis, whatever gender you are is determined by your gender identity. That's how it works.
despite never going into depth about my opinions on this topic, I get a lot of hate comments about it and what people perceive my stance to be, which I have briefly discussed, but never in depth. So today we're gonna react to some videos of some trans people who feel very strongly that you do not need dysphoria to be trans, as well as going over a very insane death threat I got over the situation. But very briefly, I just wanted to state that all throughout the month of May, you guys know I've been doing a couple Cash App and PayPal giveaways on my YouTube, one video, a few videos ago I did, and on my Instagram a lot. So I decided all the way through the month of May, on every picture or video I post on my Instagram feed, it will have a cash giveaway attached to it, just to help out people during this time. We've been doing a lot of that on Instagram lately, and it's very fulfilling personally, so I want to keep it going. So if you're interested in that, definitely follow me on Instagram, or if you just want to follow for whatever reason, that's cool too. So
I follow her on Instagram, I'll admit it.
be on the lookout for that. So before you go any further, I feel like it's definitely important to define gender dysphoria, because that is a focal point of this video. So gender dysphoria is defined as the condition of feeling one's emotional and psychological identity as male or female to be opposite of one's biological sex. Very simple.
Wait a second, can I just look at this? So in a weird roundabout way, she's agreeing with me that gender dysphoria means you identify as a man or a woman if, like, when your sex is male if it's woman, or female if it's man. But all that is the, like, explanation of gender identity. That's not gender dysphoria.
To be opposite of one's biological sex. Very simple. It is, in layman's terms, the distressing feeling that I had growing all through my childhood of being identified by people around me and people who knew me as male. It was very...
Yeah, gender dysphoria is the negative emotional product that the trans person experiences as the result of the clash between that identity and societal expectations.
I know it's hard to understand if you're not trans, but that was what made me want to transition. That was the mechanism that made me feel like, hey, maybe I should just live as a girl. That might be more comfortable for me. That was it. Now, I experienced that as young as 4 or 5, preschool, so I personally feel it definitely has something to do with some sort of neurological misalignment in my brain. That's my personal feelings about it. And there have been a lot of brain scan studies on transgender people, which do show that male to female transsexuals do have very similar brain anatomy to biological women. And that's a lot to get into, but yeah. But with the definition of transgender being ever expanding and the rise of what we call transgenders, right? People who appropriate being trans for attention. You can act like they don't exist. They do.
They don't. It's not a thing. There's no appropriating it. It's not. That's not how that works. If you identify as a woman and your assigned at birth gender is man, you're transgender. There's no trending. Nobody is doing it because it's a trend. It's not a trend to be a fucking minority.
Obviously not as common as actual trans people, but they definitely exist, and to deny it is to be in denial. So what I
No, it's not. Your entire worldview, Blaire, is to be in denial.
Wrap my head around is why anyone would identify as trans without having gender dysphoria. Like,
I wonder if she thinks it just means your identity is that. So let's see what she says to this, actually.
what would make you want to transition? I know some people don't even transition. It's just like an identity is trans, but what would be the mechanism?
Yeah, that is it.
Be the thing that causes you to feel a certain way? It has to be gender dysphoria.
According to your own definition, but that's just because you're conflating it with gender identity as a whole, Blaire.
Anything else. I mean, unless you want to start getting into talks of my soul is female and whatever, but I personally...
No, I don't even have to mention that.
I don't believe in souls. That's just not where my head has ever been at, so I'm not going to go that route. So I personally feel that the existence of gender dysphoria validates trans people on a scientific level and gives other people the opportunity to see that it's not really a choice that we feel or behave this way.
It doesn't need to be validated in a scientific level or whatever the fuck you would think that means. People just fundamentally misunderstand how identity works.
Similar to how society coming around to the idea that gay people don't choose to be gay helped them. I mean, they're gay. They didn't choose it. That's just what it is, regardless of...
Yeah, because that as well is just an identity. There's no gay gene, Blaire.
Your beliefs are, a lot of gay people just don't choose it. So because of this, I get called a trans medicalist, which in the trans community is supposed to be a bad word and it basically just means bigot. I cannot begin to understand why that makes me a bigot, the idea that we are validated by science. But
that's not what makes you a fucking bigot.
Of course, the idea that there is scientific validity to being transgender completely destroys the argument of self-identification, which is just all the people they're doing it for attention. Like, they don't have dysphoria, so...
No, it's not. You can't... This weird gatekeeper thing is why...
They want to be included without having to have it,
no.
Which is very debilitating, by the way, and it's a bit of an insult to people.
It's very debilitating, by the way. This is all made up in her own mind. This is why people say Blaire White is insecure, and that's like the root of the thing. It's...
Who do experience dysphoria, to just be told that, like, that's not a prerequisite to being trans. I'm sorry. Every trans person I've ever talked to has experienced it to some level, and the plight is real. It's real. So let's take a look at some of these people today. This person...
I mean, yeah, the plight is real for anyone. Also, like, this is just a weird conflation of terms, like I said before. Like, that's all this means. Like, that's all this... That's the error here. That's the root of the fucking problem.
Left a comment on a Facebook post someone made about me, and I actually ended up having to go to the police with these person's comments and reporting them, and you'll see why in a second.
Alright, Blaire. God, I'm gonna speed up this part.
This person says, I'm sick of him, talking about me, cute, invalidating trans-identified folks.
This is definitely a trans woman. But I don't understand why she's calling Blaire a dude back. Like, is that like, she's like attempting to do some kind of like owning a praxis by like misgendering Blaire, because Blaire White misgenders trans people she doesn't like as well.
Who are open about never experiencing dysphoria. He is transfer shrew scum LA trash. I don't know what transfer means. I know shrew scum is what they call people who believe in gender dysphoria.
I don't know what transfer is either. I would think that would be like being a trans furry, but...
So interesting that you see yourself as fighting for trans people while calling he and him. That's trashy. So this person went on to say, honestly, I live within driving distance of women's...
Yeah, it's funny how Blaire also does that to people.
Like her, I own implements and know how to use them. I could take her out from a distance.
She thinks she can just be like, oh yeah, you're not who you say you are because I decided it.
Erase this trash from her. Imagine being this disgusting. Someone replies, so you're threatening to kill her? She replies and says, I didn't say that at all. Just saying I could pay Blaire a visit, have a talk with her face to face. Implements could be pens, paper, a phone, chocolate milkshakes. Use your imagination. So clearly that person is threatening my life, and I went to the police about it. And you can see the misery in their face for sure, and why they would be that hateful and disgusting. But let's focus on what she said about dysphoria versus not having dysphoria.
The fuck?
So, for people who believe that you don't need gender dysphoria to be transgender, you need to explain to me what else would make you want to transition. What other possible thing or purpose could there be to transitioning? Because I can think of a few things. I know people get attention when they transition. I wouldn't like to believe people do that, but I know some people do. And I'm sorry, but that is quite insulting. It definitely feels like the appropriation of something that many people struggle with, to the point where a lot of them think of really harming themselves and actually do it. I never personally been at that point. But
wait a second, what? Is she... Wait. Say all of that again, Blaire, please.
explain to me what else would make you want to transition. What other possible thing or purpose could there be to transitioning? Because I can think of a few things. I know people get attention when they transition.
You just don't get what dysphoria is. Like when you... Oh, God. Like, I don't feel dysphoric all the time, guys. I don't feel dysphoric right now, really. Like...
I wouldn't like to believe people do that, but I know some people do. And I'm sorry, but that is...
Because it doesn't mean... It's not just, oh, I identify as this when I'm not this. That's just being trans. Dysphoria is when you hate yourself for being trans.
Quite insulting, and definitely feels like the appropriation of something that many people struggle with, to the point where a lot of them think of really harming themselves and actually do it. I've never personally been at that.
Yeah, I know it sounds like this, but I don't understand why you're peddling this. Like, I want to know if it's actually because she doesn't get it, she doesn't understand the conflation she's made, or if it's just like, I just kind of want people to think that trenders exist or whatever, you know.
But I have been at a very low point. I remember when I first started my channel, you guys know I didn't have, my transitional surgeries at the beginning of my channel. I did it in about 2017, which was like a year into my channel. Before that, my life was miserable. I was too uncomfortable to even go to the grocery store, to leave my house, to even be seen by my boyfriend at the time in the house without makeup. And transitioning and alleviating that dysphoria,
I mean, I know the dysphoria thing, like, yeah.
immensely helped me. It cured a lot of my dysphoria, about 99% of it. And
that's why I'm gonna do that.
just knowing how miserable it is to suffer with gender dysphoria, it's quite insulting that people would pretend as if that's not part of the trans experience. And for anyone who claims to be trans, but that doesn't experience that, you're not lesser than me. I'm not like a badder bitch or cooler or more valid because I experience it.
Your entire argument, this entire fucking video has been that you're more valid because you experience it, because what you fail to recognize is that those people are still trans.
Valid in your own right, but I wouldn't say that you're trans. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, but when
you
get rid of the medical criteria that there is to be transgender and to be diagnosed and set on a path of transition, which as of now is the only chance of alleviating and or curing dysphoria, when you get rid of the prerequisites for that, then you're expanding what trans is, and you have kids being diagnosed as trans, going and having life-altering surgeries and going on hormone replacement therapy.
And then there's the fucking fear about trans kids being peddled
that
in.
really maybe probably shouldn't, and end up regretting. We've interviewed detransitioners, we've talked about that before. So if anything, the belief that gender dysphoria is either not real or you don't need it to be trans is a lot more harmful to us than believing that you do have to have it, in my opinion. So let's react to this video called Being Trans Without Having Dysphoria. It's kind of like saying...
Actually, it's way more harmful to think of it the way you think of it, because it's not true.
Real or you don't need it to be trans is a lot more harmful to us than believing that you do have to have it, in my opinion. So let's react to this video called Being Trans Without Having Dysphoria. It's kind of like saying...
Oh, she's doing my thing now.
Depressed without being sad, or being bald while still having hair.
What? You can have depression and not be fucking sad. What?
Okay, let's see.
Hi there, my name's Vera. I'm trans. I don't have dysphoria. So before I get any further into this, happy Pride.
That's not happening this year.
So when I say I'm trans, most people...
It's weird how happy Blaire sounded when she said that.
For someone looking the way that I presently look in this video, would take that to mean that I am a trans woman, meaning somebody assigned male at birth who wishes to live a full-time life as a woman.
That's what
Well, no, I would disagree with that definition as well. You just identify as a woman. That's it. Like, it's not more complicated than that.
Being trans was for all of civilization, and as long as trans was the concept, up until about 2015, yes.
That is not me. I am gender fluid. My sense of
But Blaire's just like, yes, like,
self doesn't stay put. It's, I was assigned male at birth. Sometimes my sense of self wanders in a decidedly feminine direction. Sometimes it goes more masculine. Sometimes it hangs out in the middle. Sometimes it just kind of shifts around even, within the same day.
which is normal, by the way. Like, this is a gender fluid person, a transgender person who considers themselves a transsexual, denying that a gender fluid person is trans is, what did she say earlier? Scummy? It's scummy.
Okay, so here's my issue with that. I don't think that what and how this person is describing themselves is invalid. There are a lot of people who do not adhere to strict gender roles. There are a lot of people who view themselves as a mix between masculine and feminine. Even everyone thinks I'm so girly all the time. I feel like I have a mix within myself. But my problem lies.
This is probably because Blaire White hates herself and has internalized transphobia.
The fact
But
that
that's kind of another video topic, to be honest.
transsexuals like myself are forced to be categorized with people whose experiences are so wildly different. It's kind of like saying being bi is the same thing as gay, when it's like, okay, maybe a
No,
man
it's
who's
not.
bi.
It's actually not the same thing at all. If there was like a big unifying term for like, well, actually, what Blaire White is doing is actually like saying that bi people aren't queer. Is basically what she's doing by saying that gender fluid people aren't trans, because it's an umbrella term that falls under.
A man who's gay, both are into men, but clearly the life of a bi man is going to be much different than the life of a gay man, because they also like women and have the chance of dating women. That's completely different, and that's why we have different categories. For me, and what I know of the trans rights movement going back way decades and decades ago, is that we spent so long trying to differentiate ourselves from cross-dressers, from, as this person is describing, being gender fluid, because we've recognized that it's different. It doesn't mean one is above or one is
Distancing yourself just for the validation of fucking cis conservative people is throwing the entire movement under the bus, Blaire. You're abandoning the movement by doing that.
better. Everyone likes to twist my words and is probably going to perceive me as trying to put this person down. I'm really not. I'm simply saying, how are we categorized as the same thing when we're so vastly different? I mean,
yeah, you're not the same thing. You have differences. You're binary and they aren't. Cool. I don't understand the point of this.
experience of transitioning and altering your life in every way possible is so much different than someone who, for all intents and purposes, I don't know this person personally or on a deep level. Just from the surface of watching the video, it seems as if this person's transition, or what could be as close to that, is really just wearing makeup and having pink hair. Again, I'm not putting that down, but we're different. I've said this before, but there are so many different categories under the LGBT umbrella, and people...
That difference doesn't make them not trans, Blaire.
will get so offended if you dare to say that being pansexual is different than bisexual, despite the fact they have so many similarities. But you can never say they're the same thing. Everyone will get offended. But if I sit here and say that as a transsexual woman, that I'm different than someone who's gender fluid and just wearing eyelashes and pink hair, suddenly that's offensive. Like, make it make sense. So to me, what's annoying is that these people keep expanding the definition of what being transgender is, so much so that it's actually lost complete meaning. And in my opinion, you can disagree and feel free to leave it in the comments. I think that deeply contributes to the fact that LGBT...
Wait, what did she say?
Wearing eyelashes and pink hair, suddenly that's offensive. Like, make it make sense. So to me, what's annoying is that these people keep expanding the definition of what being transgender is, so much so that it's actually lost complete meaning. And in my opinion, you can disagree. And feel
No,
free
it
to
hasn't lost any fucking complete meaning. You're just like experiencing like identity narcissism, Blaire. You're just like, oh, it's my identity. These people can't also be trans. They're not like me. It's like they're still trans, because all it means to be trans is that your gender identity is different from your fucking biological sex, which is what you think dysphoria is. That's your problem.
In the comments, I think that deeply contributes to the fact that LGBT acceptance has been going down for the first time in decades. Down, not up, down. A lot of people think that we're just constantly moving on this trajectory of accept everyone and love everyone, but that's actually not the case. Acceptance of LGBT people has been going down.
Yeah, it's a shift to the cultural right. Because in case you haven't noticed, the cultural right is the side that has all the power right now, Blaire.
Due to, in my opinion, a lot of really radical and crazy activists. I think at some point it really becomes an issue about
you're victim blaming when you do
if we
that.
can't get our own stuff right.
The activism is a reaction to reactionaries.
If we can't even come to a consensus within our own community of what constitutes who we are in our existence, then how can the rest of society take us seriously?
Yeah, exactly. You need to come across to our side of the fucking community who actually gets it.
And there's nothing wrong with being gender nonconforming or gender fluid or expressing yourself in a masculine and feminine way that is not like so binary. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all.
It doesn't matter if you don't think it's wrong, Blaire. We know you don't think it's wrong. We know that.
But there is
you do it. Like, we know.
such a thing as staying in your own lane, and I'm not trying to be negative, but at the same time, it really puts a hindrance on actual transsexual people when this is all muddying the waters, like I said. Make sure you guys subscribe to this YouTube channel. I know you're going to watch.
No, it's not muddying the waters at all. You're muddying the water and poisoning the well on purpose by doing this fucking video, dude.
4 or 5 more videos. I know you've already watched 4 or 5 more. Join our family. I don't have friends, so I kind of need subscribers to make up for it. Make sure you guys
Can I get a same?
follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok because I post way more on there than I do on YouTube, and you gotta follow those to keep up with me. And I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
It's funny how I don't even have a TikTok. Oh god, the next thing we're doing. It happened again. Alright. So yeah, Blaire White is wrong. Blaire White, as usual, incorrect.